So here it is, the snake. It's called the snake. On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty-colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. "Poor thing," she cried, "I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you." The border. "Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and as soon as she arrived, she found that pretty snake she'd taken in had been revived. "Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed that vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. "You're so beautiful," she cried. "But if I hadn't brought you in by now, oh heavens, you would have died." She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed him and held him tight. But instead of saying thank you, that snake gave her a vicious bite. "Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed the vicious snake. "I have saved you," cried the woman, "and you've bitten me, heavens, why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die." "Oh, shut up, silly woman," said the reptile with a grin. "You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in."
We are instructed to give unto you the law of chastity, which is that the women of God's kingdom and the men of God's kingdom shall have no sexual relations except with those to whom they are legally and lawfully wedded according to his law. Each of you bring your right arm to the square. You and each of you individually covenant and promise before God, angels, and these witnesses that you will observe and keep the law of chastity as it has been explained to you. Each of you bow your head and say yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Jehovah, we promised Adam and Eve that we would visit them and give them further instructions. Come, let us go down.
We will go down, Elohim.
I hear their voices. They are coming.
See, you are naked.
Take some fig leaves and make you aprons. Father will see your nakedness. Quick,
Hide.
come, let us hide.
Brethren and sisters, put on your aprons.
Travis Wingetsall. Bruce R. McConkie in the chapter heading of Alma, chapter 12, put, "Men are judged by their thoughts, beliefs, words, and works." He is correct, even when he added beliefs. which you will not find in the text. Because faith leads to action, leads to words, leads to results, consequences. And so, yes, it starts with a thought. A thought in your mind has to first be obtained, for which you then either believe the precept or not believe the precept. Thoughts can also be obtained through reading and experiencing life with the five senses. And so just thinking is not really much of anything to be judged by. It's actually the beliefs where it starts. And this is also called interpretation. How you interpret the five senses. How you interpret other people's words. Other people's actions. Even your own. This is what constitutes morality or ethics. And there are numerous ethical claims. I will not call them theories because they've all been proven false. They're supposed to be dismissed. The scriptures make it very clear how to learn the truth and thus have the one and only one correct morality. Seed, soil, fruit. By their fruits you shall know them. Consequences. Likewise in the Book of Mormon. Not just Alma chapter 12. It's a real simple concept. And so evil people have learned that all they have to do is alter their beliefs of their perception, alter their interpretation, and they can get away with whatever they do, in their minds at least. Laws of government are established based upon beliefs of those in charge. Their interpretation of the five physical senses, and thus create laws based upon their beliefs. And they are constructed into words. The king decreed a law, or a constitution, with words. If a people do not follow the law, they are then committing a crime. And punishments are typically established for people who violate the law. This is supposed to be an accepted contract to live in the society, that people obey the law and interpret the law as written. And so, yes, lots of times criminals, in their defense argument, would claim a different interpretation of the law so that they can get away with their crimes. You get corrupt lawyers who give alternative interpretations to try to trick the courts into siding with them. It was funny, on my New York mission in New Canaan, Connecticut ward, full of lawyers for the Elders Quorum. Every single week, jokes aplenty. Yeah, you're all corrupt and you're Mormon, got it. Got it. Got the joke. Got the joke. And so religions are the same exact process. Whether it be the Jews who wrote the scriptures and in the Jewish learning that the Book of Mormon was written, and in the Jewish learning of Joseph Smith. And then you have other interpretations of other religions, like the creation of Christianity and the creation of Islam. You have others, Buddhists, Hindus, Aztecs, Mayans, Babylonians, Persians, Greeks, Romans, Hittites, Chinese, all stemming from the Egyptians. So, if we were to go to the Jewish scriptures by Jewish authors of a Jewish religion, they have in the Jewish law of Deuteronomy, in the Jewish teachings of the Torah, in chapter 5 of the 10 Jewish commandments. Notice how I keep emphasizing Jewish so that you understand the correct interpretation, the correct belief, the correct morality of the Jews. And you can run the test. If you run the test and you find out that, having sex with other men's wives is a good thing and not a bad thing, then you can say that the Jews are wrong. You now have a witness as a testimony. You're not running for your life from her husband. It's a good thing. I don't regret it. Dumbass. Okay, run the test. Matthew chapter 7, starting in verse 15. Run the test. By the fruit of the word, you will know whether a prophet is true or false. And so you start with the first one. I am the Lord thy God. Well, the person is Moses. The man like Moses. Because it's not Moses who's writing this. It's a Jew who's writing in the voice of Moses, because in chapter 18, he's the Jewish Christ. And so he says that thou shalt not have other gods before the future Jewish Christ, the man like Moses. Thou shalt not make any graven images, like some other deity, like a deity that is crucified. No crucifixes. The 10 Commandments forbids crucifixes, Christians. Do you see how the Jewish word, by being misinterpreted by Christians, now allows Christians to excuse their immoral behavior by replacing the Jews? Apparently you missed over the weekend where I beat up on Jesus, and then Tuesday when I used the Bible to destroy Christianity, Islam, and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Romans chapter 1, verse 3. Seed, egg, baby. This is the belief of the Jews concerning their Christ. Therefore, you can't have any other deity, any other Christ. This is the Jewish religion. This is the Jewish teachings. This is the Jewish Christ, the Jewish law. This is not complicated, people. And so, the Jews know when he's coming. They know the day and the hour. We'll get to it because they put Sabbath on purpose. And so you're not supposed to bow down or worship and serve other gods. No Jesus, no Allah, no Mormon Jesus. If you're going to claim this as your scripture, you have to obey it as the authors who wrote it. If you're going to be Christian, you have to come up with your own scriptures. You can't steal from the Jews and turn them Christian. That's immoral, by definition. You stole. You're not supposed to steal. Oops. But this is how people justify wickedness and crime. They reinterpret the word from the law, whether it be a religious law or a government law. And that's how you can destroy the other person in court, is to say, Your Honor, the Constitution is very clear. They already have religious freedom. They don't get more. Women already have rights in the 14th Amendment, Section 1. Not the sperm for which she was raped with. Abortion must be legalized nationwide because the woman's life comes first. And if you're married to a woman and she gets an abortion, you come home from work, she says, "Hey honey, how's your day?" "Oh, great, I went to the doctor and got an abortion." "What?" "Yeah, she just broke up with you. She doesn't love you. She doesn't want your sperm. Bye-bye." Marriage is over. So now you are justified in going and finding another woman because she's the whore. Why did you marry him? That's typically not what happens. It's usually rape victims. And that's why the morality of MAGA is the dominant one on this. Alters the interpretation, using Christianity to say that sperm lives matter. That's what they're actually saying. That it's murder. And I thought Mormons knew at least that much. I did, honest. I thought Mormons were smarter than they are. I really did. I didn't know that Mormons thought that men only release one sperm per release. I didn't know that that's what they knew, that that's what they believed. And so now I understand why their belief from their interpretation of sex ed results in their freaking out and panicking, demanding that no abortion be allowed. Is because that sperm is the only one sperm that came out. There was no mass genocide of multi-millions. Just the one. That's it. I mean, seriously? Oh my God, even Homer Simpson, they had the episode of little Homers all racing to get to Marge's egg. You missed that episode? You didn't believe it? You thought it was just a joke? Just a satire? It's so funny because it's true. I mean, seriously, dear God. So yeah, this is why. They make stuff up based upon their belief to justify their actions to be imposed upon other people and claim it's moral, that the other people are immoral and need to have their agency taken away from them and punished according to their interpretation. And I already went over with you, this is the Jews. This is not as Christianity. This is not Islamic. This is not the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The Jews are right. All the rest are wrong. All the rest are immoral. We're done. But we're going to keep going on. Because we need to talk about the Sabbath day. And let's see. Sabbath day is next. So, yes, they're telling you there is the coming of the Jewish Christ, a man like Moses. And so in order to be a man like Moses, you will know him by how everything that is in the story of the Exodus will be worked through him. You will see the consequences of his actions matching the Exodus. He will sue in Pharaoh's court. Obviously, Pharaoh does not exist anymore. That's not the literalness that you're supposed to have. Whatever government is in the future of when the date is, that is the government and the religion that you're supposed to be looking for. And this is where Mormons need to run. Run, Mormons! Your beliefs are wrong! I'm about to give you the true beliefs! Run! Run! Don't forget to dislike and unsubscribe. Which I don't think your subscribe or unsubscribe or dislike counts if you unsubscribe after. It may, but I don't know. And you can't experiment because once you unsubscribe, you can't see anymore. You can't see the dislikes anyway. And so I won't know. And so the one guy yesterday who was stalking my channel and immediately put a thumbs down, you can experiment with this. Do it for this video. Which, it doesn't matter if you unsubscribe. If you're signed in, you get to do it. And that's what matters. But still, not sign out. Whatever. YouTube sucks. They set it up to bully creators. They won't leave us alone. And that's been a big problem. I've been collecting a file of all the abuse of YouTube. It's a pretty big file now. And they don't allow you to complain about it because the complaint form online is a general one. You're not allowed to explain what the precise problem is. They won't allow it. So, keep the Sabbath day holy. Well, that's Babylonian creation. What's it doing with the Jews? This is awesome. This is so cool. 597 BCE, Nebuchadnezzar came in and conquered Judah from Egypt. Judah was now a tributary of Babylon, no longer a tributary of Egypt. And the king of Judah was replaced with Zedekiah. It's right there at the beginning of the Book of Mormon. Oh, see, Travis, it's literal history. Yeah, 600 years from the time Lehi left Jerusalem in 597 BCE. Right. Sure it is. Sure it is. You keep believing that. And see what produces as fruit. Oops, wrong. And so 11 years later, Zedekiah was a naughty boy to his brother. So Nebuchadnezzar was angry. You need to hear this, Trump. This is a Trump Eyes 2025 video too. And comes back and yeah, makes his brother a hostage with the Jews of Judah. Destroys the temple on 9th Ave, 586 BCE. And so the Jews are taken captive into Babylon. They were Egyptians originally. And what resulted is Babylonian cultural assimilation, government and religious assimilation. The Babylonians, which only existed for about 50 years, created a 7-day week calendar. The 7th day of the week was a superstitious, paranoid day because the number 7 was an idol god that they feared. And so the law went forth with the creation of the calendar that on the 7th day, nobody is allowed to work. And so yes, the author of Genesis is post-Babylon, not pre-Babylon. People are using a wrong interpretation, not the authors of the Jews. And so the Babylonians imposed the calendar upon the Jews. The Jews already knew the date of when their Christ was coming. It's the Egyptian Christ, Horus, which is also named Son Amen, from their King of Kings, Lord of Lords, King David Moses III of the 18th dynasty of Egypt, who had Armageddon won. And then he came in the midst of the battle, put his foot on the Mount of Salem. And it was divided, but that was actually the war. It was in the valley of Har-Megiddo. That was the division. The Hittites were thinking to flank the Egyptians in a pincer move. And David Moses III was brilliant. He went the long way, came in and got him. And so yes, eventually the Egyptians won. And Pharaoh let the soldiers loot them. As a reward for their loyalty in the battle. But anyway. And so yes, a lot of the Jewish scriptures about the second Armageddon comes from this actual historical event, but they knew the dates of the latter days events. And so, why then do they adhere to the Babylonian cultural calendar of superstitious religious practice of a Sabbath day? It's because that's the date when the Jewish Christ would come, on the seventh day. That's why the Jews have Sabbath days. They turned the Babylonians who enslaved them and turned it to their religion. Oh, seventh day. Yeah, that's when our Christ is coming. And so thus, the Sabbath day for Jews is the day that they remember that they were in bondage to Babylon and are not allowed to work. And that they must wait for the coming of their Christ on that seventh day in the future, who will free them from bondage. Thus, Daniel with Nebuchadnezzar's statue dream. Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, conquered Judah, took them hostage to Ur of Babylon. That's when it was created, and so thus Abraham couldn't have come from Ur of Babylon. Didn't exist. But it's not literal history either. Okay? And so thus, you have the different kingdoms, as this was written during the Roman period time of the Qumran community. So you have Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, and Rome creating Christianity, of the feet of iron of Rome mingled with the clay of Christianity. And what happens to that feet, Christians? He didn't know yet. He was in the iron legs period when it was written. Bye-bye, Christians. Bye-bye. You are not the true church. The Jews made it very clear. Why are you here? You had to... Oh my God. Okay? And so, in the gospel stories, with the Jewish Christ now being named Jesus because it's the reverse of Isaiah, and the Isaiah prophecy gives you the date of his coming, which would be on the Sabbath day. I give unto you a sign in the heavens, Virgo, with the sun and the moon under her feet, upon her head a crown of 12 stars, and she is pregnant with Jupiter, and gives birth to Jupiter, and his name shall be the Egyptian sun god at noonday. Hey, that's Revelation 12, 1, 2, and 5. Hey, that's Lehi's second vision date. Hey, that's an exact pattern match for Joseph Smith and his second vision. Yeah. The Jews knew. The Book of Mormon know. Joseph Smith know. You don't know. You had the wrong belief. Wrong interpretation. The Sabbath day. So, in the stories about Isaiah, who is supposed to be named Emmanuel, because it's the prophecies of Emmanuel that are now written in story form. have this group of Jews called Pharisees who are constantly attacking Isaiah, Jesus, for his practice of violating the Sabbath day. You're violating the Word of God. And he responds, I am the Lord of the Sabbath. Bow to me. Yeah, that's why. He is the latter-day Christ, Jewish Christ, on that day. What is the day, Travis? Get out of here. Just go. Get out of here. 8.7K videos over the whole latter days. And the latter days are over with. You're a little behind. I had a dumbass comment on a video. I don't understand. Obviously, you're using the wrong interpretation. Mormons don't understand me. That's why Mormons hate me. Because they have the wrong interpretation. I read from the Book of Mormon, learning of the Jews, and Mormons only hear Jesus, Christian. Mormons are stupid. And they get angry when I call them stupid. And then they prove that they're stupid by doing something stupid against me. Mormons will never get it. You need to have the correct belief. You can't have whatever belief you want. And so you don't get it. You don't understand what I'm talking about. This is at the end. We're waiting for Trump to destroy the world, and he's taking his time. Even Nelson was humiliated. They had scheduled 2025 early last year, at the end of last year. And when I checked it the other evening, I realized, oh yeah, they were expecting Trump to destroy America before April conference. And that's exactly why I did my conference video about Nelson having to humiliate himself in front of Mormons who did not go on vacation and smearing poop on the Capitol walls of, I no longer know the day or the hour. I know I hyped it all up, and now I have to let you down. We tried. We made sure that he would run for president, violating the laws of the Constitution, 14th Amendment, Section 3, violating due process, violating other laws of the Constitution to make sure Trump would go back into the presidency. Now he's teasing for a third term, a third coming. Come on, Trump. Seriously? A third coming? Why don't you just make it a fourth coming? Scriptures are very clear. It's a second coming. Because the Jews are wrong. That's why I did the video the other day about the Jewish Christ showed and why Jesus is a no-show. And you were offended because you didn't believe. Okay, and so these others are just summation of the Egyptian 42 affirmations, and that's why the Sabbath day is in there. And so you never caught on as to how in the world could the Sabbath day be practiced among the Mayans, Aztecs, Pueblo, Ashkenazi. Isn't that how it's pronounced? They were in X-Files. You know, a space alien from Kolob comes to Earth, abducts Dana Scully, and immaculately conceives in her. Brilliant, Chris Carter. Brilliant. Mormon Church is true. Chris Carter said so. But that adds to the falseness of Christianity and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as Romans chapter 1 verse 3 exposes, as Matthew chapter 1 verse 1 exposes. Nobody gets it because of the false interpretations. They're unable to read and comprehend what they read to get the right interpretation. That's the whole reason why English grammar is supposed to teach us English comprehension. It's because we need to get the right interpretation of what we read. We do book reports to show that we understand the book. And yet, AI is doing it for us now and getting it wrong. It's a bad idea to put AI in education. And yet they're doing it. They're not stopping. They know AI is a faulty, failed system, and they don't care. They keep pushing it. It is not intelligent. It is wrong. It's going to revise history, revise math, revise everything. And then people are going to believe it, and then the consequences are going to be bad, and then they just say, well, I don't know, what is the cause? You're not blaming the programmers who put the malware virus in AI. That is who you blame. So yeah, but Musk did away with consumer rights. So it's buyer beware now. So yes, Christians not believing in a human Christ believes in an immaculate conception. They believe that Jesus isn't even of the egg of Mary, because that would pollute them. The first creed of Christianity says that a dove raped Mary, but put the whole embryo, that is not an embryo because it's not real. It's not of the five physical senses, into Mary's womb. That's Jesus. And so therefore she's a virgin after she gives birth. Because she never had sex to give birth to Jesus. So take that, Lois Lane. In the house episode was awesome. Lois Lane comes in with her boyfriend to house and says, there's something wrong with me. And House runs the tests as a scientist and says, oh yeah, you're pregnant. That can't be. Because she didn't have sex with her boyfriend. Dear God, what a dumbass. Time to run away from her, dude. Time to run away from her. But anyway, House, because they wouldn't let it go and acknowledge that he cheated on him, she cheated on him, he then faked results and created a hypothetical, untested, therefore not theory, for which She, with her one egg, was able to produce a sperm in it to produce a baby. Call it immaculate for the Christmas episode that season. Not quite. But yeah, the show was awesome. I was worried when he was going to the psychologist and being incarcerated there. But in the end, he ran the test. Psychology is a fraud. A dangerous, violent fraud. Good for you, House. Good for you. Go back to your drugs. Go back to your drugs. Alrighty. And so, yes, thou shalt not murder, honoring your parents, but not when they're abusing you. They're assuming that your parents are good, that they raised you right. Don't lie, don't steal. Adultery. If a single man and a single woman touchy, is that adultery? No. When Jesus says, whosoever looketh on a woman denies the faith and needs to be excommunicated and punished, is it with a single woman and a single man? No. It is not adultery. When Jesus says woman, that's the English translation of the Greek word. We don't have the correct translation. Remember, we believe the Bible to be the Word of God as far as it is translated correctly. And Jesus is talking about women who are married to a man who've had kids from him. And even if she hadn't had kids from him, he is married to her. He is supposed to have her babies. And if she aborts them, she doesn't want him anymore. It's over, dude. She divorced you. You can use that as evidence that she was proactive in destroying your marriage. And then you can get palimony and screw her over. But nonetheless. And so, yes, other men are not supposed to treat you as a cuck, as that was defined. I saw The Office define that the other day. I never knew. I didn't know. I just knew it as adultery. Nonetheless, and you get that televangelist who watched his wife do the pool boy. What the hell, dude? Did you marry her, or are you not wanting to be married to her? And what the hell's wrong with her? Did you not marry your husband? I mean, you believe, or at least you say you believe in the scriptures as Christian interpretation, and yet you don't understand adultery. You've reinterpreted that to allow for pool boy sex. Again, they had to alter their beliefs of their altered beliefs in order to justify their actions. And this is where it runs into problems, because people, as humans, are required. It is a basic necessity to have a release of more than one sperm per time and one egg, is because we need to perpetuate the species. That's the very first law in the Christian turning the scriptures into literal histories and then putting them into chronological order. Because the Christians did that, the first commandment now is sex. having babies. And Christians are saying, no, that is a sin. And they throw it all into the one word adultery. Any thought, any feeling, any act towards that end is all considered part and parcel to adultery. Fornication, which is sex with a temple prostitute, porn, and then they've redefined porn, and that's why the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints likewise screws up the interpretation of the Jews, the scriptures, on purpose, so that they can sexually abuse Mormons. All of it is wrong. You knew they were wrong because it's the wrong deity, not the Jewish Christ. Therefore, wrong. And so all the rest of this obviously is incorrect because we ran the test. We already know they're wrong. I was done way back at the beginning when I first went over this. We are purposely lengthening this out so that I can then go and bathe and get ready for my day. And so what Jesus is actually talking about is don't desire your neighbor's wife. Neither shalt thou desire thy neighbor's wife. Neither shalt thou covet thy neighbor's house. That's what he's talking about. And so the Matthew author didn't know that the Deuteronomy law had, thou shalt not desire thy neighbor's wife. When Jesus says, you have heard it said before time, thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you, thou shalt not desire thy neighbor's wife. That's what he's saying. So apparently, the Matthew author didn't know that the document was to have, neither shalt thou desire thy neighbor's wife. Qumran community. That's all it's about. And so yes, knowing this, when the husband dies, it was set up in the law that instead of the woman finding another man of another household, thus giving children to the woman who's had children of another man, in order to avoid that, they've set it up so that the widow is given to the brother of the husband, and eventually the other brothers on down. That's how she is supposed to be taken care of, and thus keep her in the family, keep the children with the family of the original husband. That's all that's for. And so nowadays, we don't give a damn. You have a whole bunch of kids who are brothers from another mother or brothers from another father, and stepchildren and all that. And we call it a family, and then that goes on to alter the definition of family, and then beliefs get altered as a result of that. Don't even get me started. So I do need to cover Laman and Lemuel. Laman and Lemuel had a belief that their father, as a seer, was wrong. Laman is the firstborn birthright blessing son. It is his right, therefore, according to the Jews, to be the tribal leader when Lehi dies. But already, he's growing up not believing in the seer, prophet, revelator gifts of his father. Calls him a visionary man, insults him to his face. That he's wrong, that he's holding them hostage because of his beliefs against seership as the tribal leader. And so for laymen, he alters the concept of tribal leadership to believe that it's just a title by birth. That by birth, he is entitled to be the tribal leader. And that it's just a title of seer, prophet, revelator, translator of Paleo-Hebrew and Egyptian. I told you to run, Mormons. You didn't listen. Joseph Smith is the keys of Moses as the head of the church, a seer because he has visions and dreams, a prophet because he predicts the future, a revelator because he gives you the dates. Get the hell off my channel if you dare ask. Just go. And is a translator of Paleo-Hebrew and Egyptian. For Mormons to say that Joseph literally saw Jesus, who is the sperm of a deity from outer space, from another planet, into the egg of Mary, so that she's not a virgin. Christians, yes, Virgin Mary. Mormons, no, she's not a virgin. She was raped by a space alien, Chris Carter. And believe that he physically appeared of the five senses, not a vision, is to deny that Joseph Smith is a seer. And they do. They call him the prophet. But in saying he's the prophet, it means that he's Deuteronomy 18, verses 15 through 19. Joseph Smith history, verse 40. They can't accept that, because that's only Jesus. But that's what they've done. They've settled with. They go around telling us that their authority comes from Peter, James, and John for seed planters of the Word that is supposed to be the Jewish word of the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith, not Christian Jesus. And so 86, the apostate is Brigham Young, sowing the tares among Joseph Smith's wheat, among the Book of Mormon's wheat, having an alternative interpretation of an alternative belief in the Book of Mormon and of Joseph Smith. And so yes, the living prophets of Jesus deny the gifts and the powers thereof. They claim title, that it's their right as the president of the Quorum of the 12, their birthright blessing as the last oldest survivor of the rank, to be put in to the presidency when the president dies, just like laymen. exactly like laymen, except that it's not a family thing. Although Brigham Young originally had his 12 and successors as blood. And that's why those not of the blood were then put out other places to build a wall to keep out Americans settling the new land. But the original 12 was supposed to be the bloodline of the Danites. Yep. And so Richard G. Scott was the first one not of the bloodline. Bruce R. McConkie married into the bloodline. Get in. And so yes, the For Strength of the Youth pamphlet, it's based on a false belief, false interpretation. It is therefore immoral. Mormons who are obedient to the For Strength of the Youth pamphlet are immoral. Mormons who are Mormon are immoral. Because the core belief is wrong. It's the wrong interpretation. Mormons are by nature immoral. It is not a sexual thing only. It is ethics. It is how you perceive good and evil, right and wrong. And even saying that, it assumes a morality that was created by the Zoroastrians of the Persians. And too many dumbasses modernly then impose the Zoroastrianism onto previous religions, just like Christians do. No, Zoroastrians created good and evil. And you can say, well, Chinese had the yin and yang. But slightly different, but similar, because they all came from the original Egyptians. But you can't impose what came after onto what came before. That's also part of anachronism, is the technical terminology for that. Alrighty. And so yes, everything the church says, everything the church does is immoral. Living prophets of Jesus are immoral. Mormons cannot see it because they have the wrong belief, the wrong interpretation. And that incorrect interpretation, for which Bruce R. McConkie says you'll be judged, bite Mormons. It was a trap, you fell into it, you're foolish virgins. Just like the statue on Temple Square now. You can't just interpret it as the wise virgins when they don't have the reserve oil with them. But that's how people do it. People get angry at others. This is a good representation. Yeah, that's a brilliant representation of the foolish virgins. Don't tell me it's the wise virgins when they don't have reserve oil. I will not be threatened to believe a lie. I will not be threatened to alter my interpretation of reality. And this is what nobody is understanding. The words have meaning. They are not to be tampered with and altered to other definitions. The Constitution never allows for democracy. Yeah, we're transitioning into Trump-ice 2025 now. Trump's art of the deal makes it very clear that Trump believes in criminal behavior. He tells in the book, I con people to make my money. And when the con is up, that's when it's time to take the money and run. And so you should have read his book before voting for him as president. But specifically, this second coming of Trump, you knew what he was going to do. We've already had a first coming of Trump. You knew what he did. You knew his manners, his practices, because the Russian press leaked it. American press found out what Trump was doing from the Russian press. No collusion, my ass. They purposely lie. Trump lies. We all know this. It's not a surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that Trump would lie, that Trump would steal, that Trump would con, that Trump would accept bribes, that Trump would violate the Constitution. This should not be a surprise after all this time to the deep state Dem press. They should not be shocked. They should not be panicked. They should not be judgmental. They should know Trump is president. He's going to commit crimes. He's going to destroy the Constitution. He's going to destroy our lives. We're all doomed. They should have known this from the beginning. This should not be a surprise to anybody. It's written in his own book. And yet, just, and so the deep state Dems, playing dumb about Trump's actions based on his beliefs, are thinking that he's a chicken. And they've got an acronym for his being a chicken. I can't remember what it was, but he always chickens out. Is that the acronym? ACO? I don't think so. I think it's something else, but anyway. No, I told you before I found out about this, what Trump is doing. It's in his book. He tells us what he's doing right now in his book, decades ago. All you have to do to know what Trump is up to is read his book. That's all you have to do. You won't do it. That's why he was selected to run for president, because they knew his book. He's the guy for us. And oaths got leaked. It's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who made sure that Trump was selected to be put in as president, because they know his book. And so, even MAGA have never read his book. Even Fox News, even though they keep using in the title of their clips on YouTube, The Art of the Deal. You don't understand the bigger art of the deal from his book. You get an F for comprehension. They're using titles, not the words of the beliefs that lead to his actions. And so even MAGA believed that Trump was only going after the deep state Dems. that when Trump gets put in, he's going to lock them all up, and it'll be hilarious. We can laugh at the deep state Dems for getting locked up under Trump. And that all of the laws of Biden get overturned. That we return back to a MAGA interpretation of the Constitution, where women have no rights, blacks get sent to the bleep hole countries where they didn't come from, Islamists are banned from America and go back to El Salvador. And travel bans and all of this, where women have no rights. But they didn't understand that it applies to MAGA. Apparently, according to AI voting machines, the first time ever being used in a voting machine, everybody voted for Trump. Blacks, LGBTQ, Islam, all voted for Trump. Women voted for Trump. Rights were taken away, and you voted for Trump. The savior of women, the champion of women. You get the consequences you deserve from your interpretation that you embrace. That's similar to what Mitt Romney warned you about after voting for Trump. Remember, you voted for him. You get what you deserve. And so, when collateral damage happens, which we were warned there would be collateral damage, you don't get it. MAGA believes that they aren't going to be touched. That their eggs at their grocery store are going to be cheap. Only the deep state Dem grocery stores are expensive. Only the deep state Dems get financially punished, physically punished. Their laws, their alterations, and destruction of the Constitution is reversed. No, you're not listening to your Lord and Master. You didn't listen to him in the rallies. You didn't listen to him in his interviews. You didn't listen to the family proclamation, which is in the Project 2025. You did not listen to his inauguration speech. You don't listen to any of his further speeches as president. You're not listening. You're interpreting Trump wrong. Not just the deep state Dem press. You, as a MAGA supporter of Trump, are not listening and interpreting Trump correctly. Trump, yes, started with the most severe, but he's working his way to get all involved. Starting with the southern border, sending the military to the southern border to stop the constitutional right of Congress to regulate immigration. They maliciously caused the problem at the southern border because Congress failed to do their job. And so people, in order to get into America, had to find other ways because Congress failed to do their job. And those other ways are criminal because it goes against the process that Congress failed to regulate. And so then the MAGA cries out, "This is a crime! Get 'em!" Well, they caused it. And you don't see that because you've never read the book Utopia by Thomas More, or at least watched the Drew Barrymore movie Ever After. You don't know what they're doing because you don't know the interpretation that Trump has, that MAGA has. You've got your own interpretation. You hear them, but you only hear what you want to hear. And then that gets spread around YouTube, and nobody is listening to Trump. You're not getting it. And so, yes, Trump wants only white male Americans in America. That's why the whole South African whites getting asylum. You didn't know this? You're not listening to him. He had to create a genocidal threat to get him here to pull this stunt. You knew from Zelensky that he's bringing leaders from other nations to the White House so that he can humiliate them. And you thought that, oh, he's working with the South African president. Yay! Oh, he humiliated him. What the hell? What's going on? What is Trump doing? He's breaking the law. He is predictable. Listen. Stop making up your own beliefs. For finances, Congress is in charge of this. I've told you this. I told you his tariffs are for money laundering through the stock market. And then finally yesterday, the deep state Dem press went, oh my God. It's in the Constitution that Congress is only allowed to do tariffs? Oh my God. It took a lawsuit, finally? After all these months? For you to catch on that Trump was using tariffs illegally, according to the Constitution, to launder money. That the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was the big profiter off of this. You weren't listening to me? You didn't believe me? Oh my God! You didn't understand what I meant when I said 10 trillion, 10 trillion, 10 trillion dollars. You have the wrong belief, the wrong interpretation. That's why you don't understand me. God. I almost forgot. The church, going back to sex ed, see, in pre-1991, the law of chastity was the law of polygamy originally, the law of marriage technically. It's not the law of chastity. They changed that because the United States dissolved their organization. And so before, it was no sexual intercourse. And so I was kind of taken back that they would say intercourse. But when I came back from my mission, Benson had changed it to sexual relations. Thou shalt have no sexual relations except with your husband or wife to whom you are legally, lawfully, and wedded. Nelson would go on and change that in 2019 to polygamy. None of you believe that it's polygamy, and so you are not obeying the living prophet of Jesus because you misinterpreted the misinterpretation of Nelson. Nonetheless, sexual relations is worse than sexual intercourse, because sexual intercourse is seed, egg, baby. And so therefore necking and petting is okay. Getting to second base, A-okay, because it's not stated specifically, even though they were in conference talks. And so what Benson did, by turning it into sexual relations, is you can't be male or female anymore. You have to turn off being male and female, because sexual, by definition, relating to the instincts, physiological processes, and activities connected with physical attraction or intimate physical contact between individuals. You cannot redefine this. The New Temple text under Benson, and it's still in there today, no sexual relations for your polygamous families. Outside of polygamous families, is that any being a woman, being a man, is a sin now. You can't have thoughts, you can't have feelings. Your little factory cannot function. Your menstruation cycle must stop, women. That's what this says. This is the sexual abuse of the church. It can't be sexual relations. They've got to change it because they're sexually abusing you. It is our nature to have instincts, physiological processes, and activities so that the human race can continue to exist. And the church says no. And not a single one of you believes it when it's right there in the text. That's why Nelson keeps telling you, go to the temple. Go to the temple. It'll prepare you for Jesus. And you don't believe him. Okay, back to Trump. And so, yes, all LGBTQIAPO+ have to stop. You have to go back to being male or female. If you are female, you have no rights. You are property of your husband. If you are black or colored, get out. If you're filthy rich, you can stay, as long as you keep paying Trump tribute. You've got to keep bribing him. You can't just bribe him once and think that everything's going to be fine. You got to keep bribing him. You got to keep letting him know you're bribing him. And then he'll make sure that you get to stay because you're rich. You've bribed him. Otherwise, you got to go back to the bleep hole country where you didn't come from. And as tragic as her death was from cancer, Mia Love gave Trump no love. after telling her that her ancestral land was a bleep hole country, for which I wrote to her, stand up, don't let him do that to you. She didn't. She's out. And now she's dead. Very sad. Those who are criminals. Trump pardons you. Violent criminals, financial criminals, he pardons you. But for different reasons. Violent criminals, so that you can go back to being violent in the streets again. Financial, you need to bribe them. Bribe Trump. The couple that were reality TV people that got pardoned yesterday, they had bribed Trump. And so Trump rewarded them with a pardon. It's real simple. Deep state Dems are all panicking and in a frenzy. This is a violation. Are we at a constitutional crisis yet? Read his bleeping book. And so, yes, student visas, DACA, grants, federal grants, federal, for schools. No, he's shutting it all down. And Utah, as a Trump-supporting state, but a sanctuary state, because of the Church of Jesus Christ, are experiencing some problems from backlash from Trump. They don't understand. I thought you were just going after the Dems. You're not getting it. You're playing dumb. You think this is all just a game against the other people who you believe are wrong. You're right. They're wrong. You're both wrong. And so, yes, this is why Utah is slowly experiencing the same thing. Even though Cox is trying to defy Trump by claiming, well, we're MAGA Trump supporters. We're not subject to the laws that Trump is giving. We're exempt because we're MAGA. No. Are you bribing Trump? No. You're not getting it. When Trump was looking to put people into his cabinet positions, Mormons were like, oh, Trump is interviewing Mike Lee. Oh, Mike Lee could be in the cabinet of Trump. Did he bribe Trump? No. Therefore, he's not in Trump's cabinet. You have to bribe him. Musk bribed him, got his own department. Doggy. When his first choice, Matt Gaetz, for Attorney General, was a little too much because of those little girls. He then recommended Pam Bondi, who bribed Trump. She owes Trump a favor, though. Hello? The Mormon who was a financial criminal. Trump pardoned him because Pam Bondi's brother was his lawyer. Hello? This is how Trump's government works. This is his beliefs. He's fully implementing it. If you don't like the consequences, you shouldn't have voted for them. Oh, AI cast your vote for you? Okay, well, you can't. Now, the elections are final. You can't be a denier of the vote. AI would never lie and do something wrong. So, yeah, what else do we got? So the whole 80s attacks on women. I mean, anything being a woman was attacked. All of it. You know, all these diets were coming out because women were too fat. They needed to follow the diet. Women were dying. Plastic surgery, Botox, tanning. Women were told that they could not be virgins because they were laughed at and shamed for being virgins at 12 years of age. And then they were laughed at and mocked for having sex. You're a whore. Women were just under full attack. You didn't have the right hair color. You didn't wear the right makeup to cover up your natural face with natural makeup. This makeup makes you look natural. Oh, God. And wearing certain clothing, you had to wear the certain clothing, not the blue light special at Kmart. And you had to be ultra thin with big boobs, but then Barbie was attacked for being an unrealistic body type for women. But a plastic surgeon can make you look just like Barbie. And women were too short, too fat, too tall, too skinny. And women needed to be involved in porn, and women shouldn't be involved in porn. Bullying on all sides, on everything, just as boys were attacked for gayness. Everything we did was gay. Everything we said was gay. Everything we liked and listened to or watched or wore, gay. As women were being attacked for being women. The 80s were a nightmare, and that's when the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, with evangelicals who were on the forefront of these attacks of both men and women, using psychology, began their secret combination in 1981. Dear God. So yes. Now, as you look back in retrospect, you can see the bigger picture, especially in the context of Oaks getting leaked by a little sister missionary. That the church is involved in all of this. They knew Trump, they put him in, so that they can get their kingdom back. As I've gone over with you on 8.7K videos. You're under full attack, and Trump is hesitating. We're waiting for the trigger moment that will either cause the Civil War or, well, however it'll be caused. But Trump's book makes it very clear that this is how he does it. So we're waiting for him. So he's not a chicken by delaying the tariffs on Europe till July. Because the economy is still trashed. The debt is still trashed. The ports are still empty. You don't understand the damage he's already caused. All because you don't understand how to identify correct morality. Yeah, Mark Glenn was the guy who said he didn't understand my video. He had a comic book hero as his thumbnail picture, and I don't understand why he didn't understand me. Does he not understand that Superman and Star Wars are in the learning of the Jews? Even Mormons and Christians try to claim that the Swartz is the Christian spirit. But Battlestar Galactica, Mormons, did you know that that is in the learning of the Mormon who wrote it? Glenn Larson. Mormon. Battlestar Galactica is Mormon. He was a consultant for the revision, the reboot. Caprica was awesome. The rise of the AI Terminators, which is why Zuckerberg turned Meta based upon Zoe's AI metaverse in Caprica. That's where he got it from. He says he got it from that. It's well known. And so, yeah, the reboot of Battlestar Galactica from the Mormons. Mormons have influenced society because of Battlestar Galactica and other Mormons who have become popular through their works. Win-win situation, Mormon. And Britain and the EU made a deal the other week in which they announced it is a win-win situation. That's where they got it from. The Mormon. Stephen R. Covey was the consequence, the core belief for the deal between the UK and the European Union. They themselves said so by saying win-win. Those words come from Stephen R. Covey's book of his belief that got published and popular. And so, and The Office even said it in an episode where Steve Carell was trying to make peace between the two sets of women. He said we need to have a win-win or a win-lose or a win-win-win. He's altering Stephen R. Covey's book. But still, that's where he got it from. The script author got that from Stephen R. Covey's book. And so when you see entertainment, government, music, movies and TV shows that say words, those script writers got those words from somebody else. Just like the scripture I read from in the beginning. You have to run the test to make sure that they are true before you base your whole life on them. Otherwise, total chaos and destruction emerges. Alrighty. Oh, land occupation. We can go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. That's why Islam, their immorality of replacing the Jews and replacing Christians, is why there's a land occupation dispute in Israel. The truth is that the core correct interpretation is that it was the Jewish land, like I said in the beginning. They were tributary to Egypt. Egypt no longer exists. The Jews still exist. Arabs are not Egyptians, though they occupy the land of Egypt. It is not their land. They were Babylonians. At least Muhammad was. And Babylon only existed for 50 years. They emerged from the swamplands to conquer Assyria. They only lasted 50 years or so, plus or minus. So, yeah, that's what frustrates me about the news, is they are not getting to the core of what's going on. They're not reporting the truth. They're supposed to be taught in journalism school to ask the questions: how, who, what, where, when. You can't know why, but when you report how, who, what, where, when, because otherwise the audience is confused. A shooting today leaves 5 people in the hospital. We need more information. Who, where, when? More specific than today. So, get your beliefs right. Let the consequences follow.